again, letting that happen against Endemic, it's something that will perform at that level internationally.
Well, they have high success on that Battleground, undefeated in league play there. We're going to find out where Battleground number 2 is going to be and see if Endemic wants to take control, and they indeed will take control, as they're going to be taking us to Infernal Shrines. And their map picks, Dreadnought, after losses, they tend to have a mixed bag of what they like to play. Their best Battleground, 4-1 on Sky Temple. They're 3-2 on Infernal, but 2 times they've picked this map after losses or at the start of the phase or the start of the match. So it is something that they do. They seem to have a plethora of things they like to pick from. The one thing that does complement them well is we know Alex Straza, strong on this Battleground, something that they do like to play, likely be banned out, but it also brings Maiev back in because you always get the tether value. It's very easy to drag onto multiple targets, play around the shrine, and things of that nature. But we also know they have unique strategies that they can also play around with. It's something that we know that Endemic does do at various points, and they have quite a bit. We also saw the Medivh ban last time. You can only ban out so many heroes at the start, so maybe Endemic's got some tricks.
Yeah, that was one of the things that once you started talking about the Alex, that I immediately was like, all right, well then, looking towards the bans that we got out of the last game and the fact that we went through Abathur and Medivh, Abathur not as heavy of a mainstay as we get compared to the European region, but the fact that we got the Medivh there, I want to know, are we going to see more focus towards those kind of traditional heroes, or again, more towards the support choke, because there is a very different value when looking at Infernal Shrines. And the fact we didn't get Whitemane out of the last game, I thought for sure we would end up seeing
at some point
as early as game 1.
It's based on damage dealt. You're healing, and you obviously tag your targets, and it's based on damage dealt, getting some of that additional healing out. So it is something that brings to light is getting the lash, hitting onto a hero, you get the crisscross going on there, and then here on Infernal Shrines, if it's based on total damage done, there's plenty of damage to be had around those skeletal defenders. We'll see if that does come into play here. Infernal Shrines banned 4 times by HeroesHearth during Part 1, so something that they haven't played a lot of. Again, Endemic's draft in Game 1. Pretty decent draft outside of the Dahaka Maiev combo, but we'll see if they've clearly done their homework to prepare for this.
Yeah, I still would go back and look at the game and I go, I really like their draft. I love their early game execution. I do not like everything starting as early as that first protector and from that point on. And I feel like if that kind of gets adjusted and cleaned up, I don't look at that last game and I feel like it should be as snowballed back into the favor of HeroesHearth Esports. So if we get that same drafting style from Endemic, I'm still going to remain optimistic here, at least moving into game 2, as we still stick to a bit more traditional. Diablo taken off the table, considering its shrines, no surprise.
Does Alex Straza get banned here is the question, and if not, is HeroesHearth willing to commit to an early pickup? The Whitemane question is, there's a lot to be asked. We know that the Q build we saw, I think, a couple times earlier in EU at 1 and 4, but then at level 7, obviously she has her version of Cleanse, as Urel's going to be banned out there, and it's a matter of how effective can this be? Is the build, can we bring it to different battlegrounds? Can we do different things with it? You just kind of wait for that confirmation bias of, all right, we've seen it played, we know that this is strong, and sometimes that it just takes to see it, to know how it works, and to see how other people are making it function. I mean, every time we went to Eastern Clashes before, we always heard from like the Taiwanese teams, they say, hey, we just wait for Korea to play it, and then we implement it. We try to see how's the new hero working, what's the build, things of that nature, and I think we'll see a lot of that develop with Whitemane over this first weekend.
I think that's fair to kind of expect, is look for that approval within some of the other regions, especially in North America. When we innovate within the meta, it's usually not through the support gameplay. It's through like team fight synergy is more often than not the place where we kind of rely on that. And I don't see any screaming major synergies, at least not yet, with that Urel. Deckard is going to be the priority though. This is cool, this situation that Endemic is in, because it puts them in a, well, number one, how valuable is Alex? Is it enough to be worried about the ban? And if Whitemane is useful and is impactful as she might be able to be, you don't pick either in this slot. You're willing to let it go through into the draft. So the fact that it's let through, in my mind, that says Endemic is comfortable with a Whitemane, even with, or if Alex Straza is banned out. Hopefully. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see it.
Sergeant Hammer the pickup here, and it's not something we see often on Infernal Shrines, especially given her ban rate, but she will show up here. Does give you that protection from Blaze. Blaze, this is actually one of his worst battlegrounds. And when we looked at these stats globally, you'd think that, all right, the clear, the survivability that we'll have will be strong. HeroesHearth with the hammer on the other side, they're mixing it up, Dreadnought. We get an early Thrall, but a Li Ming here on Infernal Shrines in the early part of this draft. It's curious because that's normally a second rotation hero.
That has to scream in a new Barak fear or priority somewhere. It's Infernal Shrines, J-How. This is North America picking a Li Ming pre-second ban rotation on Infernal Shrines. That has to be am I missing something else? A major counter? I mean, okay, Wave of Force pretty good into Sergeant Hammer is an underestimated trade-off. Even Disintegrate is a little bit undervalued in the counterplay you can have with the sieging opportunities there. And she is a kind of sitting target when it comes to that DPS, but I feel like a little bit it has to be that, again, that spike out of the Eastern scene with the Anubarak.
You know what we also saw at Eastern Clash, which technically was seen here first by No Tomorrow? The Nazebo.
Oh, baby.
The Nazebo.
Yeah.
We'll see how that comes into play.
Nazebo plus Deckard and Li Ming, that's so much mage damage that I feel like there's almost no way you get.
Probably not on this one,
yeah.
but down the road.
Yeah,
down the road. The Anubarak for sure. I'm looking for, like, we've played Anubarak some here, and Fury, I think, busted it out, but it's like the coordination and the synergy. The way that Korea uses it, we're going to get the Murd and see if we, as the Alex Strong's band out. Here's our first Whitemane in North America. A lot to be talked about as we get into the game with Whitemane. But the Anubarak, the play style of Korea and the way that they use Anubarak is far different than we see in any other region, which is why it's so impactful.
Yeah, their initiation and follow-up to the Anubarak once that Impale combo comes through is very, very good compared to a lot of the other regions. I would compare it to, he's the second-hand Tyrael in modern day. It's just that Sanctification is such an unreliable spell, and some of the other changes into Tyrael has made it less prominent for him to be a pickup. But the same playstyle exists with the Eldruins, have a backliner get the follow-up with the large damage burst afterwards, and almost always nets you a major kill, and then afterwards, you know, the warrior has a very good heroic to be able to disengage the skirmish afterwards. And look at that, though. Skirmishing, Maev and Garrosh in the last rotation for HeroesHearth Esports. This is the most Korean North American draft I've seen in a hot while. Just bring the fight. It feels like it is. You know what? Don't care about the battleground. Just bring the battle to your opponent.
Phoenix, that gives you more frontline control to deal with the Garrosh. It's something, these slows that can be there. You've got the knockback potential of Sergeant Hammer. You got the slows from Blaze if you get tossed in as Murd, and you can hop your way out. So there are a lot of defensive mechanics. For HeroesHearth, they did get the Thrall pairing with the Maev, so the double melee assassin. But Dreadnought, I'm gonna take you down history road here. I got a question for you. A new support comes out. You're a competitive player. We know support is one of the more wild roles I think that we have, and all like tanks can normally fit in. We know assassins can always do damage, but support is always a different feel. How comfortable are you? A new hero comes out 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, let's go.
Pretty confident, actually. I think as long as you're a true support player, which is a little bit tough to say this in this area because we have a lot of North American supports that are just now picking up support. But I guess for any of the North American supports that are very much been a long-standing support, it is every support should be in their arsenal. Even the Brightwing that is out of the meta, right, should be something they're comfortable picking at some point in time. So they should be working on Whitemane while she was on PTR and have the opportunities here to where you're like, we're sitting a lot of games deep on her. And if you're willing to pick it at this point in time, mixed with her relative strength, it's definitely there compared to, again, some initial release supports in the past. So I'd say it's probably pretty high, but again, Endemic moving over a different, you know, kind of support role. It's going to be interesting what happens now knowing Mike Udall is the man flexing over to it.
Now that Tyrande, as we saw at Gamescom,
don't talk about it, man. We don't.
Is more support-oriented, and you're now saying that every support, every player should have every support in their arsenal, and Tyrande now should at least be viable or available when needed.
I haven't looked at the Tyrande changes yet to be able to say yes or no, but I will say this. As long as she is being converted to an actual support or an actual damage dealer, I'll be happy. But whatever this weird hybrid she has been since day one with that passive, I will be a sad panda.
It's exciting. We'll see how it goes in as, you know, just like the last year, we have a leash in our studio as well. But for now, the early start here, the Whitemane in particular is, she functions like no other hero that we've had before. The way that her supporting works, the one thing that I know when I played Whitemane on the PTR day one, I'm like, man, sometimes you think you have a kill. And then Whitemane just is like, the places where you think you have a kill, Whitemane just completely shuts it down. It's so unique the way that she plays, especially how it's related to mana, which is one of the reasons I think we're going to see more into the Q build to make sure that you don't have those mana issues.
I do think she is a bit more on the kind of ability-oriented support, and what I mean by that is just that if you find her in the situation where the cooldowns are available, great dodge there by McIntyre, maybe the only reason he's able to make it out. But if you catch her in a situation in the optimal circumstances here, which Mikey Doll into those. She has some of the better supporting output in trades in the game, but it's catching her around those cooldowns and around the position and right timing to be able to make that happen. And for now, the team finding themselves in the right position is Endemic here with Sergeant Hammer in a colossal laning mismatch on the top half of the Battleground, able to start up the siege here before that first shrine.
I talked to several of our support pros last night about Whitemane, and you know, I'm trying to get the feel. How much Whitemane are we going to see? What's the potential builds? Things of that nature. And everybody's like 100% you're going to see her. They're still trying to figure out the main build. I think Q build will be the main one, at least, you know, from what I saw in EU and what I have anticipated so far. So it's just a matter of level 7. She has her own version of cleanse with the intercession, but it gives you that extra stack that can deplete your mana pool. And that's the main thing, is making sure that you do rotate those abilities correctly and build correctly so that you don't run out of mana. And that seems to be the name of the game with Whitemane, is as long as you don't run out of mana and you can manage that correctly, your healing throughput could be there. But it's a matter of getting the channel damage, things of that nature. I believe for level 1 it does, I think 55 damage or somewhere along those lines. You get 7 ticks out of it, right? It's the 3-second channel, so it ticks at 0. The potential damage output at level 1, if you get the full 3-second channel, is somewhere around 385 damage. And if you have targets tagged, we're talking healing plus damage there. That's a significant margin.
Yeah, and again, I feel like that kind of is showing that she falls under that unique line of like, catch her in the right circumstances, right? Can she get away with that? And if so, she does have some of the more kind of, radical numbers and ability to swing the momentum in a team fight in skirmish of any kind into her favor. Hold up, though. Swinging into favor, though. B-Kid dives into the backline. Ishbu's going to get body blocked out there. Ends up getting a dwarf toss. Indomitable was used. Don't know if that's going to become a problem over this next skirmish for Endemic here, as we got the shrine already started by Blaze. Keep in mind, Hammer has not shown any rotation up, at least not quite yet, along with Li Ming. So it's going to be a 4 versus 4 up here once Maev ends up making the rotation.
Ooh, nice step there by Biggie, making sure to walk just inside that groundbreaker to avoid that stun. So nice plays so far. And this is always the more interesting shrine. The other 2 shrines, you have multiple escape opportunities. Here, you're limited to chokes. And this is actually where Li Ming tends to shine the best. On the top shrine, you have better angles, more team fight potential. But the fact that Sergeant Hammer is down at the bottom does kind of change things here, as we now see Endemic. They're going to get rooted in. Michael Udall getting tossed in. The tether's going to be applied as well. Michael Udall able to walk away for now, but the root's going to land.
Yeah, with that groundbreaker as well. B-Kid trying to kite out here along with McIntyre, getting a couple of heals off the ground from BBJ. And this is going to be after that pick onto Whitemane, the rest of the skeletal defenders picked up by HeroesHearth Esports and the first Punisher here on Infernal Shrines, just a little bit out too far. Great scroll of ceiling there from BBJ, forcing Endemic to split up, allowing for a very easy flip on to Mike Udall there. Something that's got to change here as the game's going to move forward. Whitemane is not the best frontliner.
We can see the rotation in, and this is going to go over. Cure actually got dove upon there, as we see Arthlon make the rotation down. They do have level 7. Calamity value is going to be there. Cure trying to survive, but that's going to be a takedown again here. HeroesHearth picked up the rotation perfectly. Sergeant Hammer ended up going top with Blaze rotating down, and Arthlon's like, it goes back to what you said earlier. What if we just didn't? What if we didn't push? And oftentimes the first Punisher, we do see rotations outside, but that was actually a very nice pick there by HeroesHearth.
Yeah, it's really well done considering their composition doesn't have the best sieging opportunities as well, knowing if Li Ming is not there. They just pretty much don't have that damage output between the Maev and Thrall being in the melee front. Can't get past that gate. So the fact that they're willing to bring the team fight with the team fight focused composition, it raises a lot of concerns, to be honest. Game number 1, we looked at it, and Endemic had, a bit more of the skirmishes, and HeroesHearth Esports was a bit of the slower playstyle composition. Hold up.
Michael Udall is going to put Whitemane to the test as Arthlon. He's trying to hold point, and Michael Udall just walks up and says, I dare you to kill me. I don't really know what Arthlon's doing here.
He's accepted his fate.
I feel like he had his best chance of just trying to walk the other way. But I guess if you're going to go out, try and take something with you. The problem is, I don't think he took much with him.
Yeah, he did not end up taking too much with him in that escape opportunity there. But what I was trying to highlight is just that HeroesHearth Esports in the last game had the slower composition, wanted to wait the game out, and kind of, even though I thought they lost too much for that to really matter, was able to turn things around. Now it's a very different tale here. Endemic Esports does have the slower composition, and HeroesHearth has the more offensive one, and they're already bringing the fight. And when we look at these teams in the past, who is the better later game team? That is going to be HeroesHearth. So this is very concerning for Endemic, the fact that they're struggling with some of those rotations. They did end up getting a bit there with Arthlon in that kind of curious transition down below, but it's very important that they don't let this game get out of control.
Oh, that stun right there is keeping Ishbu locked in, but Arthlon comes in from the dark side there with a tether, pulls in multiple members, but we do see B-Kid and Biggie able to get away, so that will be interesting. Dreadnought, one thing to point out is at level 13, Whitemane does have the capabilities similar to what Stukov has, to where if you can get the root, I feel it's a little easier to land. You get a 1.5 second root, which is not quite the same impact as Stukov, but the playmaking potential for Whitemane definitely picks up at 13. The way that we've seen Michael Udall be very aggressive with his positioning does say that, hey, I'm looking to make plays as we get later part of the game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that does unfold. And you are very right. Though the playmaking opportunities get better there for her with the 13 mark, it is very important to highlight that it is not one-to-one as to what Stukov can do. Stukov is a very big outlier in the support world, outside of rip in pieces of Loon Grace Malfurion back in the past, and how big of a range they can actually have that individual playmaking. It's going to be important because, again, positionally he has been struggling, but I want to highlight that it's not just him. I would say a lot of this is HeroesHearth doing what they do best here with their composition, especially BBJ with those roots, but Endemic is not accepting that they have to retreat from the Scroll of Sealing in the same position. Scroll of Sealing thrown down, Sundering as well. A bit of counter synergy there as two members going to get into the bunker for Endemic. Arthlon with that Warden's cage afterwards. Mike Udall trying to kite away. Just going to get tossed around the cage. Holy BFG there from Dansky. Chunked 4 of HeroesHearth Esports, and they actually second guess if they can get in.
Yeah, that taunt was just out of range there. Maybe the Unstoppable is still there for Sergeant Hammer. So HeroesHearth, they do establish a lead, and Endemic will be able to get back into this. There was the question on what we would see in terms of the heroics, but those questions were answered very quickly in that fight. It seemed like there was the counterplay of Thrall versus Whitemane. What are you going to pick versus what I'm going to pick? But that opened up quickly. Endemic trying to get back into this fight, but HeroesHearth with the early lead.
So now that we do see the Sundering end up getting picked up here, we've got to highlight one of the biggest trade-offs of the Sundering versus Earthquake. It's far less forgiving there, Jay Hal, and that was one of the moments where you see that overlap. That cannot happen with the Sundering. It needs to be either an engage or a counter-engage perfectly and not timed with another heroic there. Here we go, though. Initiation number 2, Lornado, along with the bunker, ends up getting dropped here. 30 to 33 skeletal defenders. Endemic trying to claim enough for their own there as they end up getting the flip back along with the taunt there. On to Blaze. Sundering thrown down, locking down 4 members. Endemic unable to get B-Kid out of their Punisher, now picked up by HeroesHearth Esports. A third to drop. Crowan finding a reset after reset. And this is now the game opening up for HeroesHearth.
Yeah, that one pick is all that it took, but they managed to get 2 more and the Punisher in this. HeroesHearth will need to send somebody up to that top lane to deal with potentially the remnants of that. It looks like Arthlon's going to be the one, as the Shaman's still alive, and that's the crucial part of that, and that is a substantial wave there. So HeroesHearth do get the fort down. They should likely get minimum 1 tower, potentially 2 here, and that could start to snowball. The lead, the experience on these keep walls is high. So we'll see how much they can get taken down before this Punisher falls.
Release the gate, which is going to enable a possible Punisher up in the future. There we go. Take out both of them, getting as much experience as possible. And a pretty big victory here. And it's very important to note, again, I was kind of concerned with the tempo at which this game has already taken place, Jay Hal, before that last Punisher. And now it is kind of hitting that threshold where Endemic has 1 remaining fight on even talent tiers. Because their composition is so slow on how it wants to approach the team fights and cannot demand a response, it is upon them to really take this 13 into 15 fight. And if they don't, or 12 into 14 if they can find it, and if they don't, it is going to be HeroesHearth Esports with the 16 spike and just forcing the hand for the rest of the game.
Right now, HeroesHearth establishing a lead. Sergeant Hammer doing the best that you can do to try and defend here as the wall starting to fall. You know, in that fight, Divine Reckoning was picked up, not Scarlet Aegis. Scarlet Aegis providing the heal and the armor, and it really looked like you're waiting for that, the Earthquake. Do we need that armor? There's a knockback just before the tether comes in, but B-Kid gets blown up there, doesn't have 13, no healing static, and now Dansky, he's caught behind the Lornado. He's going to be topped back the other way. Whitemane doing the best to keep him alive. As you can see, that heroic used again, unable to keep him alive. The Sunder's going to lock in Michael Udall. Can he get away? There are no minions left, so for HeroesHearth, it's time to just take what you got, dip out the other side, but you've got yourself a 2-level lead now.
And I just highlighted that that might be one of the few windows left for Endemic to be able to take an even footing fight, but when HeroesHearth Esports is the one taking it comfortably, volunteering for it, winning it, and then picking up structures behind it, that window is going to be shut even faster, J-How. This is a very good job from HeroesHearth Esports forcing with that Sundering pickup there. But I want to highlight BBJ. That Lornado was brilliantly done. The timing and dropping positioning of it, along with the direction that he made it kind of fly outward to use that sidewall against Endemic for the retreat. Ishbu trying to find his retreat as he drops the Indomitable.
Well, they're trying to get through here. Ishbu, he gets stunned, but they're trying to take that 15-13 fight. HeroesHearth has picked up 16 now, and they're forced to retreat. You know, Dreadnought, when I'm feeling it, when I'm absolutely feeling it as a ranged assassin, you know what I go at 13?
What do you go at 13?
Glass cannon.
Why, J-How? Can you tell me, with your positioning, you would take glass cannon?
Because I'm feeling it.
I guess.
I mean, if
you're feeling their fist to your face, because you're taking bonus damage there, baby.
You can't hit me from way back there. I'm not afraid of Phoenix. I'm not afraid of Sergeant Hammer. If I don't get in range and I can just poke you down, I'm just worried about blowing somebody up. Ishbu, throw me some bait here. I got this.
All right. Well, that's Crowan's comfortability here being displayed with the glass cannon selection. You are right, though. I mean, he is looking to pop off there with that glass cannon, the Calamity, and the mirror ball damage output. It is, I mean, the only way it gets better is Essa Johan, which we do not need to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Shaman Camp looks like it's going to be focused and picked up on here by HeroesHearth Esports. And this is that window I was fearful of, right? Again, with the fight dictated on the bottom half of the Battleground by HeroesHearth Esports, it is now a lot of question marks for Endemic. Normally, you'd say we'll get a split push, but when this Shrine is sitting right next to mid and bottom fourth, the only force to get that split push on, it makes the answer kind of a bit more grim for Endemic.
Well, the scary part is they don't have that camp to counter the top lane. Sergeant Hammer has to deal with that Shaman camp, and now McIntyre and team, they see that. Once Sergeant Hammer shows up top, they're like, team, look, we've got a 4-on-4 if we still want to take it. If they come over, but Blaze dealing with the mid, now they can start to open up this lane, soften it up, empower this next Punisher to come in, do some more damage, and start to look towards not just taking the keep wall down, but start looking to take the keep itself and potentially more if they get a pick.
And with the slow kind of play style that I was highlighting that Endemic has, between the Phoenix, the Whitemane, Blaze is even pretty effective at being a slow team fight player there with his self-sustain. And Sergeant Hammer, losing sidewalls like this beyond the talent tier disadvantage and things like is a lot more dire than most compositions. HeroesHearth Esports' biggest weakness is they can't engage past the wall. The wall is no longer an option. Endemic's biggest strength is having the wall to defend. And again, with that taken off the table, if you thought it was a grim kind of picture before, it's gotten a lot darker here. Punisher online, 16, still half a level away. Punisher is now online.
BBJ trying to follow up on any stun, any type of combo they can get. Instead, the Punisher baited over nicely to the mid. Will it stay there? It will not. Starting to make its way back as it's clearing out the minions to keep starting to fall. This is still a good position for Endemic, but Cure takes a full combo. There's that glass cannon coming into effect. So Cure, he's going to be forced to Hearth in the middle of that. The keep falls. The Punisher still at 60%. HeroesHearth, they've got their eyes on the prize as they look at the core.
Yeah, core going to be there along with the salvo. Sundering split there as they're trying to get on a big impact. Tether going to land on top of two. The taunt goes down and they get the first kill there onto Blaze. Beacon is next focus there for the reset, but Mike Udall able to heal everyone up. Look at the Warden's Cage along with the flip over. HeroesHearth Esports locked down two members, 68% in counting here on the core as Crowan finds the triple kill there on the reset. And game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, goes over to HeroesHearth Esports.
That looks like the HeroesHearth that we were used to. That definitely looked better.
That definitely felt like it was like, all right, we got the game plan. We're going in with the game plan. All right, the game's over. You know, all smooth sailing here for HeroesHearth Esports from minute 1 to end there. As you see, 11-1 when coming out with those kills. And I feel like a lot of this was draft decision-making, I feel like, on the side of Endemic, and more importantly, just not opening with as creative kind of level 1 and early game as we saw in game number 1.
I mean, the Sergeant Hammer pick requires a certain play style. They could never really establish it. And when you get behind with a Sergeant Hammer and you don't have these long, sustained team fights, it's like, look, getting back into a team fight in a hurry doesn't really come out that way. Phoenix, it felt like kind of absent in a lot of that, but you can credit a lot of that. We saw the Sunder for the first time in a while, so Sunder comes in, has that instant value. But Ishbu's play on Garrosh, there wasn't a lot to control him to keep him at bay, because it's a matter of, look, we can blow up the tanks. We can blow up that front line, and they had enough damage between that. It just seemed like all things clicking there for HeroesHearth in game 2.
Yeah, the two things that I really like from HeroesHearth Esports is, number 1, you know, in game 1, you ask, can you ask that of them in this kind of team? This is a moment where I would look at that draft and I go, I don't like your draft on this Battleground, right, internationally. But then they play to their draft, and and they execute clean. And that is exactly that. Again, you can't let that happen at this level of play. We didn't get that from them. They were like, okay, we've picked the skirmish focused composition. We're going to bring the fight to them. When we have the advantages, we're going to force their hand over that bottom four. And that is those moments that we want to see from HeroesHearth Esports. So that made me a lot more excited, again, based on that return from them and the Western Clash.
Speaking of return, we'll see if Endemic can return when we come back from this commercial break. Maybe take us to a game number 4 and beyond. HeroesHearth up 2-0. We'll be right back.